Section 13 of A Holy Life, The Beauty of Christianity, by John Bunyan. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Section 13. For a conclusion upon this sevenfold answer to the question above propounded, let me advise those that are tender of the name of Christ to have regard to these things. Advice first, as well acquainted with the word, and with the general rules of holiness, to wit, with the moral law. The want of this is a cause of much unholiness of conversation. These licentious and evil times wherein we live are full of iniquity. Nor can we, though we never so much love God, do our duty, as we are enjoined, if we do not know it. The law is cast behind the back of many, when it should be carried in the hand and heart, that we might do it, to the end that the gospel which we profess might be glorified in the world. Let then the law be with thee to love it, and do it in the name of the gospel, that thou be not unfruitful in thy life. Let the law, I say, be with thee, not as it comes from Moses, but from Christ. For though thou art set free from the law as a covenant of life, yet thou still art under the law to Christ, and it is to be received by thee as out of his hand, to be a rule for thy conversation in the world. 1 Corinthians 9:18. What then thou art about to do, do it, or leave it undone, as thou shalt find it approved or forbidden by the law. And when aught shall come into thy mind to be done, and thou art at a stand, and at a loss about the lawfulness or unlawfulness thereof, then betake thyself to the law of thy God, which is in thy hand, and ask if this thing be good, or to be avoided. If this were practised by professors, there would not be so much iniquity found in their beds, their houses, their shops, and their conversations as there is. Advice second, as thou must be careful to find out the lawfulness or unlawfulness of a thing before thou puttest forth thy hand thereto, so thou must also consider again whether that which is lawful is expedient. A thing may be lawful in itself, and may yet be unlawful to thee, to wit, if there be an inconveniency or an inexpediency attending the doing of it. All things are lawful unto me, says the apostle, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but all things edify not. 1 Corinthians 6:12, 10:23. This then thou must consider, and this also thou must practise. But this is a hard lesson, and impossible to be done, except thou art addicted to self-denial. For this text, and so the practice of what is contained therein, has respect chiefly to another, to wit, to thy neighbour, and his advantage and edification. And it supposeth, yea, enjoineth thee, if thou wilt depart from iniquity, to forbear also some things that are lawful, and consequently profitable to thee, for the sake of, and of love to, thy neighbour. But how little of this is found among men! Where is the man that will forbear some lawful things, for fear of hurting the weak thereby? Alas, how many are there that this day profess, that will not forbear palpable wickedness, no, though the salvation of their own souls are endangered thereby. And how then should these forbear things that are lawful, even of godly tenderness to the weakness of their neighbour? This much have I thought good to speak in answer to this question. What iniquity should we depart from that religiously name the name of Christ? And now we will make some use of what hath been spoken. Use first, and the first shall be a use of examination. Art thou a professor? Dost thou religiously name the name of Christ? If so, I ask, dost thou, according to the exhortation here, depart from iniquity? I say, examine thyself about this matter, and be thou faithful in this work, for the deceit in this will fall upon thine own pate. Deceive thyself thou mayest, but beguile God thou shalt not. Be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Galatians 6:7. Wherefore, let no man deceive himself, either in professing while he lives viciously, or in examining whether his profession of this name and his life and conversation do answer one another. What departing from iniquity is, I have already showed in the former part of this book. Wherefore I shall not here handle that point farther, only press upon thee the necessity of this exhortation, and the danger of the not doing of it faithfully. The necessity of it is urged, first, from the deceitfulness of man's heart, which will flatter him with promises of peace and love, both now and hereafter, though he live in iniquity while he professeth the name of Christ. For there are that say in their hearts, or that have their hearts say unto them, I shall have peace though I walk in the imagination of mine heart, to add drunkenness to thirst. Deuteronomy 29:19. And what will become of them that so do, you may see by that which followeth in the text. The heart therefore is not to be trusted, for it will promise a man peace in the way of death and damnation. I doubt not but many are under this fearful judgment to this day. What means else their quietness of mind, their peace, and boasts of heaven and glory, though every step they take, as to life and conversation, is an apparent step to hell and damnation? The heart is deceitful, Jeremiah 17:9, and he that trusteth in his own heart is a fool, Proverbs 28:26. These sayings were not written without a cause. Let as many, therefore, as would examine themselves about this matter, have a jealous eye over their own heart, and take heed of being beguiled thereby. Let them mix hearty prayer with this matter unto God, that he will help them to be faithful to themselves in this so great a matter. Yea, let them compare their lives with the holy commandment, and judge by that rather than by the fleshly fondness that men naturally are apt to have, for and of their own actions. For by the verdict of the word thou must stand and fall, both now, at death, and in the day of judgment. Take heed therefore of thy heart, thy carnal heart, when thou goest into thy life, to make a search for iniquity. Take the word with thee, and by the word do thou examine thyself. John 12:48. Second, it is urged from the cunning of Satan. Wouldest thou examine thyself faithfully as to this thing, then take heed of the flatteries of the devil? Can he help it, thou shalt never find out the iniquity of thy heels. He will labour to blind thy mind, to harden thy heart, to put such virtuous names upon thy foulest vices, that thou shalt never, unless thou stoppest thine ear to him, after a godly sort, truly examine and try thy ways, according as thou art commanded. Lamentations 3:40, 2 Corinthians 13:5. Wherefore take heed of him, for he will be ready at thy side when thou goest about this work. Now for thy help in this matter, set God, the holy God, the all-seeing God, the sin-revenging God, before thine eyes. For our God is a consuming fire. Hebrews 12:29. And believe that he hath pitched his eyes upon thy heart, also that he pondereth all thy goings, and that thy judgment as to thy faithfulness or unfaithfulness in this work must proceed out of the mouth of God. Proverbs 5:21, 21, and 2. This will be thy help in this thing, that is, if thou usest it faithfully. Also this will be thy hindrance, if thou shalt neglect it, and suffer thyself to be abused by the devil. Third, it is urged from the dangerousness of the latter days. Wouldest thou examine thyself, then make not the lives of others any rule to thee in this matter. It is prophesied long ago by Christ and by Paul, concerning the latter times, that iniquity shall abound, and be very high among professors. Matthew 24:12, 2 Timothy 3:1-8. Therefore it will be a rare thing to find an exemplary life among professors. Wherefore cease from man, and learn of the word. Try thyself by the word. Receive conviction from the word. And to take off thyself from taking of encouragement from others. Set the judgment before thine eyes, and that account that God will demand of thee then, and know that it will be but a poor excuse of thee to say, Lord, such a one doth so, did so, would do so. And they professed, Whether thou wilt hear me or not, I know not, yet this I know, if thou be wise, thou shalt be wise for thyself: but if thou scornest, thou alone shalt bear it. Proverbs 9:12. Let me then, to press this use further upon thee, show thee in a few particulars the danger of not doing of it, that is, of not departing from iniquity, since thou professeth. Danger 1. The iniquity that cleaveth to men that profess, if they cast it not away, but countenance it, will all prove nettles and briars to them. And I will assure thee, yea, thou knowest, that nettles and thorns will sting and scratch, but ill favouredly. I went, saith Solomon, by the field of the slothful, and by the vineyard of the man void of understanding. And lo, it was all grown over with thorns, and nettles had covered the face thereof, and the stone wall thereof was broken down. Proverbs 24:30-31. Suppose a man were, after work all day, to be turned into a bed of nettles at night; or after a man had been about such a business, should be rewarded with chastisements of briars and thorns. This would for work be but little help, relief, or comfort to him. Why, this is the reward of a wicked man, of a wicked professor from God. Nettles and thorns are to cover over the face of his vineyard, his field, his profession. And that at the last of all, for this covering over the face of his vineyard with nettles and thorns, is to show what fruit the slovenly, slothful, careless professor will reap out of his profession when reaping time shall come. Nor can he whose vineyard, whose profession is covered over with these nettles and thorns of iniquity, escape being afflicted with them in his conscience. For look as they cover the face of his vineyard through his sloth now, so will they cover the face of his conscience in the day of judgment. For profession and conscience cannot be separated long. If a man then shall make profession without conscience of God's honour in his conversation, his profession and conscience will meet in the day of his visitation. Nor will he, whose condition this shall be able to ward off the guilt and sting of a slothful and bad conversation from covering the face of his conscience, by retaining in his profession the name of Jesus Christ. For naming and professing of the name of Christ will, instead of salving such a conscience, put venom, sting, and keenness into those nettles and thorns, that then shall be spread over the face of such consciences. This will be worse than was that cold wet cloth that Hazael took and spread over the face of Benhadad, that he died. 2 Kings 8:15. This will sting worse, tear worse, torment worse, kill worse. Therefore look to it. Danger 2. Nor may men shift this danger by their own neglect of inquiring into the truth of their separation from iniquity. For that God himself will search them. I search the reins and the heart, saith he, to give unto every one of you according to your works. Revelations 2:23. There are many that wear the name of Christ for a cloak, and so make their advantages by their iniquity. But Christ, at death and judgment, will rend this cloak from off such shoulders. Then shall they walk naked, yea, the shame of their nakedness shall then appear. Now since no man can escape the search of God, and so not his judgment, it will be thy wisdom to search thine own ways, and to prevent judgment by judging of thyself. Danger 3. Christ will deny those to be his that do not depart from iniquity, though they shall name his name among the rest of his people. Depart from me, saith he, all you that departed not from iniquity. Luke 13:25-27. Yea, they that shall name his name religiously, and not depart from iniquity, are denied by him all along. 1. He alloweth them not now to call him Lord. And why call ye me Lord, Lord, saith he, and do not the things which I say? Luke 6:46. He cannot abide to be reputed the Lord of those that presume to profess his name, and do not depart from iniquity. Ezekiel 20:39. The reason is, for that such do but profane his name, and stave others off from falling in love with him and his ways. Hence he says again, Behold, I have sworn by my great name, saith the Lord, that my name shall no more be named in the mouth of any man of Judah. Jeremiah 44:26. Romans 2:24. 2. He regardeth not their prayers. If I regard iniquity in my heart, the Lord will not hear my prayer. Psalms 66:18. And if so, then whatever thou hast at the hand of God, thou hast it, not in mercy, but in judgment, and to work out farther thine everlasting misery. 3. He will not regard their soul, but at the last day will cast it from him, as a thing abhorred by him, as is evidently seen by that 13th of Luke, but now noted above. Wherefore from these hence, thou, whoever thou art, mayest well perceive what a horrible thing it is to make a profession of the name of Christ, and not to depart from iniquity. Therefore let me exhort thee again to examine thyself, if thou hast, and dost, since thou professeth that name, depart from iniquity. And here I would distinguish, for there is two parts in iniquity, to wit, the guilt and filth. As for the guilt that is contracted by iniquity, I persuade myself no man who knows it needs to be bid to desire to depart from that. Nay, I do believe that the worst devil in hell would depart from his guilt if he could, and might. But this is it, to wit, to depart from the sweet, the pleasure and profit of iniquity. There are that call evil good, iniquity good, and that of professors too, that is that to be departed from. And these are they that are exhorted to forsake it upon the pains and penalties before threatened. Therefore, as I said, let such look to it, that they examine themselves if they depart from iniquity. And come now, thou art going about this work, let me help thee in this matter. 1. Ask thy heart, what evil dost thou see in sin? 2. How sick art thou of sin? 3. What means dost thou use to mortify thy sins? 4. How much hast thou been grieved to see others break God's law, and to find temptations in thyselves to do it? End of section 13. Recording by Scarlett, Louisiana.